Okay, so good morning, everybody. Now, I guess yesterday we have discussed about Deccan Plateau, right? We have discussed about Deccan Plateau and then Karnataka Plateau, Maharashtra Plateau, Telangana Plateau, and then we have to discuss this Dandakaranya Plateau. Dandakaranya Plateau or Chhattisgarh Plateau. Actually, it is a plain, basically. It is a very thickly forested plain. Okay, so it is the only part of the peninsular plateau which is a plain. The Dandakarana plateau is actually a plain. Okay, it is having very low elevation and it is very thickly forested. So it is more or less a plain, and it is the only part of this peninsular plateau which is actually a plain. Okay, so we are not going to discuss about this, but I'm going to give you 2 or 3 points about that. That will be enough. Okay, so now let us continue with the other things we have. We have Malwa Plateau, Bundelkhand Plateau, Bhagelkhand Plateau, Chota Nagpur Plateau, Shillong Plateau, and also we have something called Marwar Plateau that is not shown here in this map, but we have another map where I'm going to show you Marwar Plateau. And first we are going to discuss about the Marwar Plateau. Okay? And then we'll move on to the other plateaus we have. So what are we going to discuss about now? We are going to discuss about the Central Indian Highlands. That means Marwar Plateau, Malwa, Bundelkhand, Bagelkhand, Chota Nagpur, and Shillong. We are going to discuss about all these. Okay? Now, the northern segment of the peninsular plateau is known as the Central Highlands. This northern segment, this part, is known as the Central Highlands. Okay? So, where is it located? Roughly to the north of Narmada River. Now, all these plateaus are bound by Aravallis to the west and Satpura ranges lie in the south. We are just trying to understand the rough location of all these plateaus. So, Satpura range lies to the south, and to the west we have the Aravalli mountains. Clear, right? Now, what is the general elevation of these mountains? Plateaus. General elevation is 700 to 1000 meters above the sea level, and this entire area slopes towards the north and northeast directions. Clear, right? This entire central Indian highland part, it slopes towards the north and northeastern direction. That means in the south we have more elevation, and in the north and northeast we have low elevation. As simple as that. Clear, right? Okay. So I hope you understood till here. So central Indian highlands, roughly where they are located, to the north of Narmada River, and they are bound by the Aravalli mountains to the Aravalli hills. We can say not mountains basically. Aravalli hills to the west, and to the south we have the Satpura range. Okay, and we are going to discuss about all these now. So let us just start with Marwar Plateau. As I told you in this map, Marwar Plateau is not shown properly. Okay, but this part is Marwar Plateau. Okay, so it is the plateau of eastern Rajasthan located to the east of Aravallis. So this part is Marwar Plateau. Clear, right? Now it is a rolling landscape carved by Banas River. What do you mean by rolling landscape? Something like this. This is rolling landscape. Okay. So this was caused due to erosion mostly by Banas River. The Banas River, along with its tributaries, Berach and Khari rivers. You don't have to remember these names, but you have to remember the name of Banas River. Okay. And if possible, try to locate the Banas River on map. That will really, really help you a lot. Okay. So just try to locate the Banas River on map, guys. Now, Banas River, along with its tributaries, originate in the Aravalli range and flow towards northwest into Chambal River. Okay. The erosional activity of these rivers makes the plateau top appear like a rolling plain. So I hope you understood this. The Banas River originates in the Aravalli range and it flows towards northwest. Okay. And the erosional activity of Banas River and its tributaries makes the plateau top appear like a rolling plain. So this is the meaning of rolling plain. Clear, right? So I hope you understood this. Now the average elevation of Marwar Plateau is 250 to 500 meters above the sea level. Okay. Next, let us discuss about Malwa Plateau. This is Malwa Plateau. Okay, it is clearly shown in the map. But again, these are just rough approximations. Nobody can tell you that this is the exact boundary between Malwa Plateau and Bundelkhand Plateau. Okay, all these are just rough approximations. Actually, this is all one single landmass. This is all one single plateau. But depending on the region where the plateau is located, we have gone for regional divisions. But this is all one single landmass. Okay. So Malwa Plateau. It lies in Madhya Pradesh between Aravalli and Vindhyas. Okay. The Malwa Plateau, this point is very, very important. The Malwa Plateau is bound by the Vindhyan Hills to the south. To the south, you have the Vindhyas. The Aravalli range in the west. To the west, we have the Aravalli range. And Madhya Bharat Patar to the north. And Bundelkhand to the east. Now, Madhya Bharat Patar is a small plateau located somewhere here, roughly here. Okay. Again, we are not going to discuss about this in the class. I'll just give you 1 or 2 points about this and that will do the job. Okay. So, Madhya Bharat Patar is a very small plateau, a very small localized plateau. Okay. So, there is nothing much to discuss about this actually. So, I'll do one thing. I'll give you 1 or 2 points about the Madhya Bharat Patar. Clear, right? So, just look at the Malwa Plateau. It is bound by the Vindhyan Hills to the south, the Aravalli Range to the west, and Madhya Bharat Patar to the north, and Bundelkhand to the east. Not only Bundelkhand, even Bhagelkhand also. Both Bundelkhand and Bhagelkhand plateaus to the east. Clear? Now, this plateau has two systems of drainage. One towards the Arabian Sea, that is the Narmada, the Tapi and the Mahi rivers. Okay. And the other, Chambal and Betwa, joining the Yamuna. So I hope you're understanding this. Now, through this Malwa Plateau, there are many rivers flowing and we can divide all those rivers into two drainage systems. First one is flowing towards the Arabian Sea. The Narmada, Tapi and the Mahi rivers, they flow towards the Arabian Sea. And the other, Chambal and Betwa, they join the Yamuna. Okay, they flow towards the north and they join Yamuna. Okay, so two drainage systems we have. Now, we have understood why the Narmada and Tapi flow towards the Arabian Sea, while all the major rivers of peninsular part flow towards the Bay of Bengal. Now, in the north, the northern part, it is drained by the Chambal and many of its right bank tributaries, like Kali, Sindh and Parvati. Just look at this point here. There are two drainage systems in Malwa Plateau. One drainage system flows towards the Arabian Sea. What is that? Narmada, Tapi and Mahi. These three rivers. The other drainage system, Chambal and Betwa, they join Yamuna. If Chambal and Betwa should join Yamuna, they should flow towards the north, right? They should go in a north or northeasterly direction. So in the north, Malwa Plateau is drained by Chambal and many of its tributaries like Kali, Sindh and Parvati. So all these are the tributaries of Chambal and Chambal is a tributary of Yamuna. And Yamuna ultimately joins Ganga. We all know this, right? So I hope you're understanding all these. Now, the plateau also includes the upper courses of the Kane and Betwa rivers. Okay, the northern part. Now, Malwa Plateau is composed of extensive lava flow and is covered with black soils. Okay, so what is the meaning of this point? We are going to discuss at the end in this session only. Just don't worry about that. We are going to discuss a topic called Deccan Trap. Then you'll understand this. So, right now, just don't worry about this. Now, the general slope of Malwa Plateau is towards the north. What do you mean by that? Elevation is more in the south and elevation decreases towards the north. So elevation decreases from 600 meter in the south to less than 500 meters in the north. Okay. So the slope is towards the north. So this is a rolling plateau dissected by rivers. In the north, the plateau is marked by the Chambal ravines. Chambal ravines are also called Badlands of Chambal. What do you mean by Badlands? This entire area was very intensely eroded by the Chambal River. Okay, so Chambal ravines or Badlands of Chambal. There are two names actually. So, what are these Badlands and where these are located? We will discuss in detail when we discuss about Chambal River. And we are going to discuss about Chambal River in the next chapter, which is the drainage system of India. So, just don't worry about that. Okay. Now, shall we just revise this once? So, where is Malwa Plateau located? It is bound by Aravalli Mountains towards the west. South, we have the Vindhya Mountains or the Vindhya Hills. And then towards the east, we have the Bundelkhand and the Bhagelkhand plateaus. Towards the north, we have the Madhya Bharat Pathar. That's a small plateau. Okay. Now, there are two different drainage systems going through this plateau, flowing through this plateau. One drainage system consists of Narmada, Tapi, and Mahi rivers, which flow towards the Arabian Sea. The other drainage system, it consists of Chambal and Betwa, which join Yamuna. That means these rivers are flowing towards the north and northeasterly direction. Clear, right? So in the north, this plateau is drained by Chambal and many of its tributaries like Kali, Sindh, and Parvati rivers. All these are tributaries of Chambal. And Chambal is tributary of Yamuna. Now, the upper part of the plateau also includes the courses of Kane and Betwa rivers. Okay. So, where is Kane River? Where is Betwa River? Okay. What does Kane join? What does Betwa join? Okay. These rivers are tributaries of which rivers? All that we are going to discuss in the next chapter. Don't worry about that. Now, what is the geology of the Malwa Plateau? Malwa Plateau is made up of extensive lava flow. That means basalt sheets. You know the meaning of this, right? Basalt sheets. And when basalt sheets get eroded, it leads to the formation of black soils. So Malwa Plateau is covered with black soils. Clear? And the general slope is towards the north. Clear, right? And basically, this entire Malwa Plateau is a rolling plateau. It is undulating or rolling, and it is dissected, cut deeply by many rivers and streams. Okay. In the north, the plateau is marked by Chambal ravines. To the north of this plateau, we have Chambal ravines. So, what do you mean by Chambal ravines? We are going to discuss in detail in the next chapter. Just don't worry about that. So, I hope you understood the Malwa Plateau. This information is more than enough. Don't worry about anything. Okay. And about the Marwar Plateau also. Very simple, right? So, Marwar Plateau and Malwa Plateau. We are done with both. Clear? Now, let us discuss about Bundelkhand Plateau. Okay, so where do we have Bundelkhand Plateau here? Now, it is bound by Yamuna River to the north, Madhya Bharat Pathar to the west, Vindhya scarplands to the east, and southeast, and Malwa Plateau to the south. So again, location is very, very important, guys. If at all you get any question about this, you'll get about location or about the different minerals present in this plateau. That's it. So, Bundelkhand Plateau is bound by river Yamuna in the north. Okay. Madhya Bharat Patta to the west. Okay. Vindhyan scrap plants, not scrap, I'm sorry, scar plants. Vindhyan scar plants to the east. What do you mean by scar plants? We'll discuss later. For you to understand what is scar plant, you have to understand a term called escarpment. And what is escarpment? We are going to discuss now. Just don't worry about that. As of now, focus on the location of Bundelkhand Plateau. Okay. So Vindhya scar plants to the east and southeast, and Malwa Plateau to the south. So this is where Bundelkhand Plateau is located. Now, it is an old and dissected upland comprising of granite and gneiss. All these are igneous rocks. So Bundelkhand Plateau is very old and it is dissected. It is cut deeply by rivers. It spreads over 5 districts of Uttar Pradesh and 4 districts of Madhya Pradesh. Okay. Now, what is the average elevation of Bundelkhand Plateau? 300 to 600 meters above the sea level. This is the average elevation. Now, Bundelkhand Plateau slopes down from the Vindhya Scarp towards the Yamuna River. So, the slope is towards Yamuna River. Just keep that in mind. So, I hope you are able to understand all these. Now, the area is marked by a chain of hillocks. Hillocks are nothing but small hills that are made up of granite and sandstone. Okay, so the Bundelkhand Plateau has a chain of hillocks. Hillocks are nothing but small hills that are made up of granite and sandstone. The erosional work of the rivers flowing here have made the landscape undulating and rendered it unfit for cultivation. When I say rendered unfit for cultivation, it doesn't mean the entire plateau is unfit for cultivation. It doesn't mean that. But in some of the parts of the plateau, the river erosion is so intense that those areas are unfit for cultivation. Okay. Now, the plateau is marked by various gorging channels like Tons, Ken, Dhasan, and Betwa. There's only one N here. So all these are rivers. Tons, Ken, Dhasan, and Betwa. All these are rivers. And these rivers have cut very deep gorges. So we have discussed the meaning of gorges before. So all these rivers have cut deep gorges into the Bundelkhand Plateau. Clear, right? So that is what you're supposed to know about Bundelkhand Plateau. And this is the meaning of escarpment. Okay, you might have seen these kind of things in many places. So such kind of structure is escarpment. And escarpment is formed due to erosion, mostly erosion. Okay. Now, Vindhya scar plants contain many escarpments. Clear, right? So guys, did you understand Bundelkhand Plateau? Please tell me. Any doubts anybody has? Okay, clear? Now, actually, when we discuss the drainage system chapter, then you'll get some more clarity. Because then we'll speak about all these rivers Tons, Ken, Dhas, and Betwa. Okay, so where these rivers originate, and these rivers are tributaries of which rivers, in which direction they flow. We are going to discuss all these things. So I'm just assuming that it is clear because nobody is responding. I don't know why. So why is nobody responding, guys? Are you all feeling good? Okay. Next, the Bhagelkand Plateau. Okay, so this one, Bhagelkand Plateau. To the north of Michael Range is the Bhagelkand Plateau. Do you remember in the previous session, while discussing about Vindhyas and Satpuras, we have discussed about Maikal Range. So to the north of Maikal Range is the Bhagelkand Plateau. It lies along the borders of UP and MP. Now, it is made up of limestones and sandstones on the west and granite in the east. Okay? Now, it is bound by Son River on the north, and the central part of the plateau acts as a water divide between the Son drainage system in the north and Mahanadi river system in the south. So, very simple. The central part of Bhagelkand Plateau acts as a divide between two different rivers. To the north, we have the Son River, and to the south, we have the Mahanadi River. Clear, right? Now, this entire region is uneven. Due to erosion, this entire region is uneven and its elevation varies widely. Its elevation varies from 150 meters to 1200 meters. So, there is a wide variation in the elevation of Bhagelkand Plateau. Clear, right? So, this point is important, guys. This point is very important. The location and this point is important. So, the central part of the Bhagelkand Plateau acts as a drainage divide. That means it is acting like a dividing boundary between two different river systems. To the north, we have Son River, and to the south, we have the Mahanadi river system. Clear, right? And where do we find Bhagelkand Plateau? To the north of Maikal Range and along the borders of UP and MP, we have the Bhagelkand Plateau. Clear? Okay. Now, Chota Nagpur Plateau. This is very, very important. Okay. Now, compared to all these, Chota Nagpur Plateau is very significant, very important. And there are some important rivers taking birth at Chota Nagpur Plateau. Okay. So, I hope Bhagelkand Plateau is clear. Now, moving on to Chota Nagpur Plateau. Chota Nagpur Plateau represents the northeastern projection of the Indian peninsula. Okay. So, this is the Chota Nagpur Plateau. And actually, okay, Indian Peninsular Plateau. This sentence is not complete. There's a small typo here. Now, look at this sentence again. Chota Nagpur Plateau represents the northeastern projection of the Indian Peninsular Plateau. So, Chota Nagpur Plateau is the northeastern extension of the Peninsular Plateau. You can think in that way. Okay. Now, it is mostly in Jharkhand and in northern part of Chhattisgarh, and it is also present in Purulia district of West Bengal. Okay. So, Chota Nagpur Plateau is actually spread across three states. It is mostly in Jharkhand, and the northern part of Chhattisgarh is also covered. And apart from that, Purulia district of West Bengal is also covered. Clear, right? Now, the Son River flows in northwest of the plateau and joins Ganga. The Son River flows along the northwestern edge of the plateau and then joins Ganga. The average elevation of the plateau is 700 meters above the sea level. The plateau is composed mainly of Gondwana rocks. So, this is very, very important. Now, what do you mean by Gondwana rocks? We are going to discuss. I won't skip it. Just don't worry. But as of now, just ignore this for some time. Okay, we are definitely going to discuss what are Gondwana rocks. So, before that, did you understand the location and extent of Chota Nagpur Plateau? So, first, you can consider Chota Nagpur Plateau as the northeastern projection of the Indian Peninsular Plateau. Next, it is mostly in Jharkhand, and northern part of Chhattisgarh is also covered in this plateau, and some parts of West Bengal. Son River flows in northwest of the plateau and joins Ganga. Okay, we are discussing this so that we'll have some rough idea regarding the location and boundaries of Chota Nagpur plateau. That is the reason for every plateau rivers are mentioned. Okay, average elevation is 700 meters above sea level, and the plateau is mostly made up of Gondwana rocks. Now, Gondwana rocks are very old rocks, and this is where we find most of India's coal. But anyway, as I told you, we are going to discuss this. Don't worry. The plateau is drained by numerous rivers and streams in different directions, and it presents a radial drainage pattern. So basically, this is the radial drainage pattern. Okay, so different streams are flowing outwards from a central point. So this represents radial drainage pattern. Okay, so this is the drainage pattern at Chota Nagpur plateau. First of all, the plateau is drained by many rivers and streams, and some of the rivers are important also. What are those rivers? We are going to discuss in the next chapter. Just don't worry about that. So the plateau is drained by numerous rivers and streams in different directions, and it presents a radial drainage pattern. This is a radial drainage pattern. From a central point, the streams are flowing in different directions, outward. Okay? Now, rivers like the Damodar, Subarnarekha, North Koyal, South Koyal, and the Barkar have developed extensive drainage basins over the Chota Nagpur plateau. I'm pretty sure that you might have heard these two names at least, Damodar and Subarnarekha. Now, this point is important. The Damodar river flows through the middle of the Chota Nagpur plateau from west to east. Here, the Gondwana coal fields are found, which provide the bulk of coal in India. Okay, so Damodar River Valley is very, very famous for mining, coal mining. So the Damodar River, it flows through the middle region of Chota Nagpur plateau. And this is where we find Gondwana coal fields, which provide the bulk of coal in India, the bulk of domestic production of coal in India. Clear, right? Now, the Damodar River is basically dividing the Chota Nagpur plateau. That is what is happening here. North of the Damodar River is the Hazaribagh plateau with an average elevation of 600 meters above the sea level. This plateau has isolated hills. It looks like a penny plain due to large scale erosion. And we have discussed the meaning of penny plain. Okay, so if you have any doubts here, kindly refer to the video where we have discussed different types of plains in geomorphology. Okay, so basically, to the north of Damodar River, the plateau is called Hazaribagh Plateau because Damodar River is dividing the Chota Nagpur plateau into two equal parts, roughly equal parts. The north part is called Hazaribagh Plateau. Okay. The Ranchi Plateau is to the south of the Damodar Valley and it rises to about 600 meters above the sea level. Most of the surface is rolling, and here we have the city of Ranchi. Okay, city of Ranchi is situated at an elevation of 661 meters above the sea level. Clear, right? Now, the Rajmahal Hills, forming the northeastern edge of Chota Nagpur Plateau, are mostly made up of basalt and are covered by lava flows, that is basaltic lava. Okay, lava flow is always basaltic. Clear? So, this is Chota Nagpur Plateau and these are the Rajmahal Hills stretching from north to south. So, basically, Rajmahal Hills form the northeastern edge of Chota Nagpur Plateau. That is what you have to remember. The Rajmahal Hills run in north to south direction and they rise to an average elevation of 400 meters. Okay, the highest hill within the Rajmahal Hills is 567 meters above the sea level. And these hills have been dissected into separate plateaus by rivers. Clear, right? So this is about Chota Nagpur Plateau. Okay. So is this clear, guys? Chota Nagpur Plateau is very, very important actually. So is this clear? Does anybody have any more doubts? Of course, you have to revise this once or twice, only then you'll understand, only then you'll remember this. So we'll do one thing, we'll just quickly revise through the Chota Nagpur Plateau. Okay? So, Chota Nagpur Plateau is the northeastern extension of the Peninsular Plateau. Okay? Actually, Peninsular Plateau extends till Shillong Plateau or Meghalaya Plateau. So, this is the Meghalaya Plateau. Okay? Now, where is Chota Nagpur Plateau present? Mostly in Jharkhand and the northern parts of Chhattisgarh and parts of West Bengal. Clear? Now, the Son River, it flows in the northwestern boundary or northwestern edge of the plateau and joins the Ganga River. Clear? Now, what is the average elevation of the plateau? 700 meters above the sea level. And I told you that the plateau is mostly made up of Gondwana rocks. Now, the plateau is drained by numerous rivers and streams in different directions. And if you look at this entire drainage pattern from space or from, high above in the Earth's atmosphere, then it represents a radial drainage pattern. So this is radial drainage pattern. From a center point, the streams are flowing in different directions outward. So this is radial drainage pattern. Now, rivers like Damodar, Subarnarekha, North Koyal, South Koyal, and the Barkar, they all have developed extensive drainage network over the Chota Nagpur Plateau. Okay? Now, Damodar is one of the most important rivers. Damodar is also called the sorrow of Bengal. Why we'll discuss later, don't worry about that. So, Damodar River, it flows through the middle of the Chota Nagpur Plateau and it divides the plateau into two regions, the northern part and the southern part. The northern part is called the Hazaribagh Plateau and the southern part is called Ranchi Plateau. Okay? Now, along the Damodar River Valley, we find Gondwana coal fields in India. Okay? Now, Gondwana coal fields provide the bulk of domestic coal production in India. Clear? Now, we also have this Damodar Valley Corporation, right? Mining Corporation. Okay. So, to the north of Damodar River is the Hazaribagh Plateau with an average elevation of 600 meters above the sea level. And the plateau has isolated hills and it looks like a penny plain due to large scale erosion. Okay? Penny plain we have discussed. So, just watch that video, you'll understand. The Ranchi Plateau is situated to the south of the Damodar Valley and it rises to about 600 meters above the sea level. And this is where we have the city of Ranchi, Ranchi Plateau. Clear, right? Now, Rajmahal Hills form the northeastern edge of Chota Nagpur Plateau. And the Rajmahal Hills are actually covered with basaltic lava. Okay? And these are very low hills. The highest hill of Rajmahal Hills is only 567 meters above sea level. So all these are low hills. And they run from north to south direction. They stretch from north to south. Clear? So that is about the Chota Nagpur Plateau. So all you have to do is just revise this once or twice before going to exam and then you'll understand everything. And we have discussed around 70 to 80% of information about Chota Nagpur Plateau. The remaining information you will get when we understand the drainage system and the economic geography. In economic geography, we are going to understand what are the various minerals or precious stones or, the natural resources we get from different parts of the country. And while discussing the drainage system chapter, we are going to understand the different rivers that originate at the Chota Nagpur Plateau. Okay. So anyway, by the end of this course, you'll have 100% information about all the important places in the country. So just don't worry about that. Clear? Now, rocks of the Gondwana system. Okay. So the rocks in India are classified into various systems. Actually, people generally discuss this as the first chapter in Indian geography, but I did not do that because I thought wherever the need arises, there I can discuss about the rocks. Okay, so that is the reason I did not discuss this as the first chapter. But don't worry, I'm going to cover this entire topic before the end of this course. So, rocks of Gondwana system. We have many systems of rocks in India formed during different periods. Okay, now let us focus on rocks of Gondwana system. Actually, the word Gondwana has originated from the Gond tribe of Madhya Pradesh. Okay, now 98% of the coal in India is found in this structure, Gondwana rock system. Okay, so these rocks have been formed between the Carboniferous period and the Jurassic periods. As we have discussed before, Carboniferous period, it extends from 358.9 million years ago to 298.9 million years ago. And the Jurassic period extends from 201.3 million years ago to 145 million years ago. So between these two periods, the rocks of Gondwana system formed. Okay. And the word Gondwana originated from the Gond tribe of Madhya Pradesh. Clear, right? So as of now, this information is enough. Don't worry about it. So clear, guys? Now, let us just move on to the Meghalaya Plateau. Okay, so this is the Meghalaya Plateau or the Shillong Plateau. Now, the Peninsular Plateau extends further east beyond the Rajmahal Hills to form the Meghalaya or Shillong Plateau. So previously we have discussed that the eastern and northeastern boundary of Chota Nagpur Plateau is the Rajmahal Hills. Okay, but the Peninsular Plateau, it extends further east beyond the Rajmahal Hills to form the Meghalaya Plateau. Okay, now Garo Rajmahal Gap separates this plateau from the main block. So actually, this entire thing is the main block. Now, Meghalaya Plateau is separated from the main block by a gap called Garo Rajmahal Gap. We have the Garo Hills in Meghalaya again. Okay, so Rajmahal Hills are situated here, somewhere here, and Garo Hills are situated somewhere here. So in the middle, we have a gap called Garo Rajmahal Gap that separates the Shillong Plateau from the main block. Clear, right? Now, this gap was formed due to downfaulting. What do you mean by downfaulting? So the central portion subsided. Okay, so that is the meaning of downfaulting. The central block that subsided. And it was later filled by sediments deposited by Ganga and Brahmaputra. So basically, between the Rajmahal Hills and the Garo Hills, we don't have any plateau here. Okay, we have a gap. That gap is called Garo Rajmahal Gap. And it was formed due to downfaulting of the block in the middle. Okay, and later on, this entire gap was filled with sediments by Ganga and Brahmaputra rivers. Simple, right? Now, this plateau is formed by Archean quartzites, shales, and schists. So, what do you mean by Archean? We have discussed the time period in one of the previous classes. So, that's the reason I did not mention this again. So, Meghalaya Plateau is formed by Archean quartzites, shales, and schists. Okay, Actually, we have discussed about quartzites and schists in the first chapter of geomorphology. Not the first chapter, second chapter of geomorphology, that is types of rocks. So just go through that video. You'll understand what are quartzites and schists. Clear, right? Now, the plateau slopes down to the Brahmaputra Valley in the north and the Surma and Meghna valleys in the south. Okay? The Meghalaya plateau slopes down to Brahmaputra Valley in the north and Surma Meghna valleys in the south. So this Meghalaya plateau, it has sloped towards the Brahmaputra Valley in the north and Meghna and Surma, even these are rivers. Meghna and Surma river valleys in the south. Okay? So towards the north there is slope and also towards the south there is slope. Now, the western boundary is more or less same as the India-Bangladesh border. Okay, so the western boundary of the Meghalaya plateau more or less coincides with the Bangladesh border. The western, central, and eastern parts of the plateau are known as the Garo, Khasi Jaintia, and Mikir Hills. Do you remember we have discussed about Garo, Khasi Jaintia Hills? Okay, discussed in the sense we have understood their location. While discussing about Purvanchal, we have discussed about their locations also. So actually, the western, central, and eastern parts of Meghalaya plateau are the Garo Hills, Khasi Jaintia Hills, and the Mikir Hills. Okay, so this point is very, very important, guys. Please keep this in mind. Clear? So Shillong, the capital of Meghalaya, at an elevation of 1961 meters, is the highest point of the plateau. Okay? Now, a small extinction, a small extinction of Meghalaya plateau is also seen in the Karbi Anglong hills of Assam. Okay? So, due to denudation, erosion, and dissection of rivers, the plateaus have formed hills, discontinuous hills like this. Clear? Now, the Meghalaya plateau is rich in mineral resources like coal, iron ore, sillimanite, limestone, and uranium. Okay? And also, we know that Meghalaya contains Cherrapunji, which is the wettest place on planet Earth. So, this area receives maximum rainfall from the southwest monsoon. As a result, the Meghalaya plateau has a highly eroded surface. Okay, so due to the highly eroded surface of Meghalaya plateau, we are calling the western, central, and eastern parts of the plateau as Garo Hills, Khasi Jaintia Hills, and Mikir Hills separately. Okay, the plateau got so eroded that it got converted into the form of individual hill ranges. And those hill ranges are called Garo Hills, Khasi Jaintia Hills, and the Mikir Hills. Clear, right? So, any doubts anybody has? So, if you have any doubts, kindly ask me now. Okay. So, that is about Meghalaya Plateau. So, what are the important points you have to remember about Meghalaya Plateau? First, the Garo Rajmahal Gap. Okay. So, this gap was formed due to the downfaulting. The block subsided. And then this gap was filled with sediments by Ganga and Brahmaputra rivers. So there is a gap between Rajmahal Hills and the Garo Hills. Rajmahal Hills are, we can consider Rajmahal Hills as the northeastern edge of the Chota Nagpur Plateau. Okay. Now, what are the other things you have to remember? The slope of the plateau. Okay, there is northward slope as well as southward slope. And this point is very, very important. The western, central, and eastern parts of the plateau are known as Garo Hills, Kasi Jaintia Hills, and Mikir Hills. So you have Garo Hills here, western part. In the middle, you have Kasi Jaintia Hills, and eastern part, you have Mikir Hills. Okay, and Shillong is the highest point of the plateau. Now, we all know that this area is very, very wet. This area receives a lot of rainfall due to southwest monsoon. So, due to rainfall and also due to many rivers and streams, the entire plateau got eroded a lot. The plateau is so eroded that it doesn't look like a tableland at all, but rather it looks like individual hill ranges scattered here and there. Okay, so that is the reason we are calling all these as hills, parts of the plateau as hills: Garo Hills, Kasi Jaintia Hills, and Mikir Hills. Clear? And the Shillong Plateau also extends a bit into Assam. We call it as Karbi Anglong Hills of Assam. Okay. And the Meghalaya Plateau is rich in minerals like coal, iron ore, sillimanite, limestone, and uranium. So these points are more than enough, if you ask me. Okay. First of all, you won't get any direct question. Like there is a very less possibility that you'll get a direct question. And even if you don't get any direct question, if at all you get any question about the geography of Northeast or something like that, then you can write about the Shillong Plateau because that is one of the most important physiographic features in the northeastern part. Okay. Yes, Oroshri, Garo, Kasi Jaintia, and Mikir. Okay, actually, Kasi and Jaintia hills are not very well separated. So, anyway, yeah, four hill ranges. Done? Okay. So, guys, with this, we have completed Marwar Plateau and then Malwa Plateau, Bundelkhand Plateau, Bhagelkhand Plateau, Chota Nagpur Plateau, and Shillong Plateau. In yesterday's class, we have completed the Karnataka Plateau, Maharashtra Plateau. This is Maharashtra Plateau. Okay. Maharashtra Plateau, Karnataka Plateau, Telangana Plateau. And I told you that I'll be giving 1 or 2 points about Dandakaranya Plateau. It's actually a plain because its elevation is very low. So it is in Chhattisgarh. You can call it as Chhattisgarh Plain or Dandakaranya Plain actually. We cannot call it as a plateau because its elevation is lower compared to the surrounding blocks of land. Okay. And it is thickly forested. The forest is called Dandakaranya jungle. Okay. So about that, I'm going to give you 1 or 2 points. Just don't worry about that. And also here we have a small plateau called Madhya Bharat Patar. So where is that? Yeah, Madhya Bharat Patar. So here. Okay. So actually it's a very small plateau. And again, I'm going to give you 1 or 2 points about Madhya Bharat Patar. Okay. Or even if I don't give any points, like you can Google about this and you can get some information. It's not that important. That's the reason I simply skipped it. Okay. So we have completed the entire peninsular plateau part with this. Okay. So yes, I know that there is a lot of factual data. There is a lot of, memory based things here. A lot of names, lot of locations, basically names. Entire Indian geography names, and names. So, yes, I know that it's a bit difficult to remember, but we don't have any other option. This is all very much part of the syllabus. Okay, so we cannot skip all these, and whatever I feel are insignificant, not so important, I skip them. Okay, because I just wanted to reduce the burden on you. And okay, you just have to revise this once or twice. That's it. There is no other option. Keep on revising and keep on attempting more and more previous year questions and model papers. Eventually, at one point of time, you will be able to remember at least 70 to 80% of this. And trust me, that is more than enough to crack this exam. Okay? Clear, right? Pooja, is it interesting? That's really good. I really appreciate your attitudes towards this, subject. Actually, for me personally, geomorphology, oceanography, and climatology are more interesting because they have a lot of conceptual things. But Indian geography is filled with facts. Okay. So for me personally, I feel that those other sections of geography are more interesting than the Indian geography part. But again, we are preparing for Indian civil services, right? So Indian geography is very important. All these places and names are extremely important. Okay. Now, let us try to understand what are Deccan Traps. This entire region that is marked in green belongs to Deccan Traps. Okay. So Deccan Traps is one of the largest igneous provinces in the entire planet Earth. Okay, that means this entire area is covered with igneous rocks. Okay, so Deccan Traps is one of the largest volcanic features on Earth. Okay, this entire area is covered by a solid layer of basalts. Okay, almost 2000 meters thick. And this entire area is spread over 5 lakh square kilometers. Very, very large. So, Deccan Traps is a very large igneous province. First of all, what do you mean by igneous province? This entire area is made up of igneous rocks. What are those igneous rocks? Basalt. Okay. So, basalt sheets got accumulated layer by layer. And the thickness of this is 2000 meters. Just imagine. And it is spread over a large area of 5 lakh square kilometers. The area consists of multiple layers of solidified flood basalt that together are more than 2000 meters thick and cover an area of 5 lakh square kilometers. Originally, the Deccan Traps may have covered 1 lakh, this is 1.5 million square kilometers. Okay, according to scientists, originally the Deccan Traps region might have covered 1.5 million square kilometers, but due to erosion and denudation, the current area got reduced to 5 lakh square kilometers. Clear? Now, this is interesting if you ask me. The Deccan Traps began forming 66.25 million years ago at the end of Cretaceous period. So what is the time span of Cretaceous period? 145.5 million years ago to 65.5 million years ago. That is Cretaceous period. So these Deccan Traps started forming 66.25 million years ago at the end of Cretaceous period. Okay. Now, don't you think this is interesting? Now, did you not get curiosity to find out how this large feature actually formed? Now, first of all, it is made up of basalt lava. Okay, so this entire area is made up of basalt lava and it was formed due to volcanic eruption, right? Now, scientists say that the bulk of the eruptions occurred at Western Ghats some 66 million years ago. And this series of eruptions may have lasted for less than 30,000 years. Okay, so over a time period of 30,000 years, many eruptions happened. Each eruption produced a large lava flood, forming basalt. Okay, so and scientists say that majority of the eruptions occurred at the Western Ghats. Clear? Western Ghats in these regions. And as we have discussed before, the original area covered by the lava flow is estimated to be as large as 1.5 million square kilometers, approximately half the size of India. Just imagine this, approximately half the size of India. The Deccan Traps region was reduced to its current size by erosion and plate tectonics. That is what the scientists say. Actually, there are many theories regarding the formation of Deccan Traps, but there is one most widely accepted theory. Okay, what is that? We are going to discuss now. But again, as I told you, most of the geography is theories. Okay, even though we are living on our planet, the planet Earth, we don't know many things about the planet Earth. We know many things, but we don't know the exact mechanism. We did not understand the exact mechanism behind many things that happen on the Earth, and that is the reality. Okay, actually, we have mapped the surfaces of Mars and Moon better than we have mapped the ocean bottom. Okay, so such a huge, large area, 5 lakh square kilometers, and scientists say that originally it used to cover 1.5 million square kilometers. Very, 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 very large area, approximately half the size of India. Okay, but then it got reduced to 5 lakh square kilometers by erosion and tectonic movement. Clear, right? Now, this entire area is made up of basalt, and basalt is igneous rock. Basalt is formed when lava solidifies. Okay, so a thin layer of lava that is flowing on the land, when it solidifies, it forms basalt. So, in this way, many layers of basalt got accumulated over one another, and it formed 2000-meter thick layer of basalt. Clear, right? So, many eruptions have occurred to form this large area, and all these eruptions have lasted less than 30,000 years. Okay, so within a time span of 30,000 years, many eruptions happen, forming this large area. Clear? So, those 30,000 years might have been like hell to organisms present during that time. Okay, just imagine how enormous quantity of lava would have flowed on the land. And just imagine how many animals, how many trees, how many habitats got destroyed due to this lava flood. Clear? Now, why do we call them as traps, or why do we call this area as traps, Deccan Traps? Because you can see this step by step pattern here, right? Okay, different layers of basalt, step by step pattern. In geography, these patterns are called trappen. Okay, so the entire area is called Deccan Traps. It's a geological term. Trap is a geological term. Clear, right? Now, scientists say that the release of volcanic gases, particularly sulfur dioxide, during the formation of the traps may have contributed to the climate change during that time. Okay. When did the formation of this Deccan Trap start? 66 million years ago, right? So, not only the lava, but along with lava, we also get volcanic gases, right? So, the release of volcanic gases in large quantities, enormous quantities, unimaginably large quantities, particularly sulfur dioxide, might have contributed to climate change. That is what the scientists say. Now, formation of Deccan Traps. How did these form in the first place? Studies have suggested that Deccan Traps have formed due to an eruption associated with a plume, mantle plume, hotspot volcanism. Associated with a plume that now lies directly below Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean about 66 million years ago. So, very simple. Let me just simplify this. Right now, where is Reunion Island? This is Reunion Island. It is in Indian Ocean. Okay. And Reunion Island belongs to France. Okay. So these European fellows have contributed, I'm sorry, not contributed. These European fellows have conquered most of the lands, right? They occupied most of the islands. So Reunion Island is occupied currently by France. It is a territory of France. So right now, under this Reunion Island, there is a mantle plume. Okay, that is what the scientists are saying. But now, 66 million years ago, Indian landmass, the Indian plate, was moving in northeasterly direction towards the Eurasian plate. We all know this, right? So when Indian plate was moving, at one point in time, it came directly above this hotspot, which is currently below the Reunion Island. Okay, currently the mantle plume is below Reunion Island, but 66 million years ago, the Indian plate was drifting in northeasterly direction towards the Eurasian plate. Okay, then at one point in time, the Indian plate directly came above the mantle plume, which is currently located below the Reunion Island. Okay, now just read these points, you'll understand. During the late Cretaceous, when the Indian plate was moving towards the Eurasian plate in northeastern direction, the Indian plate passed through the Reunion hotspot. Now there is Reunion Island over the mantle plume, but 66 million years ago, the Indian plate was moving in northeasterly direction and it came directly above the mantle plume. The hotspot caused mass scale, that means in a very large scale, mafic or basaltic eruptions. Basalt is also called as mafic. Okay, it is based on the chemical composition of basalt. Okay, if you find this confusing, just ignore this. But the hotspot caused mass scale basaltic eruptions on the Indian plate. And these areas are called Deccan Traps, as simple as that. So we all know that the mantle plume, it causes melting of the crust. The crust becomes very weak and large fissures or cracks appear on the crust. And through these fissures, there is a large outpour of lava in all directions. Okay. And this lava outpour causes thick accumulation of basalt sheets. That is how the Deccan Traps actually formed. Clear? So did you understand this formation of Deccan Traps? So guys, did you get this? Any doubts anybody has? Mantle plumes, hotspot volcanism, we have discussed about all those, right? So currently scientists say that the mantle plume is below the Reunion Island. Okay, but once upon a time, 66 million years ago, India was traveling in a northeastern direction towards the Eurasian plate. So through its journey, like on the way, during its journey, it directly came above the hotspot. Okay, it directly came above the mantle plume. So the mantle plume caused a lot of melting and weakening in the crust. Okay, so large scale fissures and cracks appeared on the crust, and that led to outpour of enormous, huge quantities of lava. And that is how the Deccan Traps region actually formed. Okay, so that is the reason why we find black soil in all those areas. See, in all these areas, we find a lot of black soil. Okay, so we know that central India is very famous for cotton cultivation. And we all know that in the central India, we have black soil. So from where did the black soil come? Black soil came from weathering of basaltic lava sheets. Clear, right? Okay. So now I have an image to make you understand this better. Just look at this. Okay. So this is the mantle plume, and this is the crust of India. This is the base of Indian plate, and this is the continental crust. Okay, and this mantle plume caused weakening of the Earth's crust, and many large-scale fissures and cracks appeared, and enormous quantities of lava poured out, forming, flood basalt eruptions at the surface and Deccan traps. Clear, right? So, guys, with this, we are done with the concept of the peninsular plateau. And did you receive your handouts? Please answer. PDFs of the previous chapters. I mean, like the previous classes. Did you get your PDFs? We have discussed about hills, right? Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats, Aravalis, and all that. And then we also discussed about the eastern coastal, western coastal plains. And then we also discussed about the islands. Okay. And did you get PDFs of all that? We also have discussed about Himalayas. Why is nobody responding? Okay. So something is seriously wrong with you people. Did you get or you did not get? Because I want you to revise all these and ask me doubts because we are rapidly moving towards the uh, finishing of the syllabus. Okay. So you have to revise all that and you have to ask me doubts before we are done with the entire syllabus. That is the main target here. Okay. So please revise, please go through all that and ask me any doubts if you have. And if you feel that anything is not clear, or if you feel that there is a topic which I skipped, or if you feel that there is a topic that could have been explained in a better way, if you can ask me, then I will, immediately take a class and cover that. Kusum, you did not get Tide's handout. Okay, thank you for bringing it to my notice. So I'll just check whether I have shared the Tide's topic or not. Maybe it was a mistake from my side. I really don't know. So I just have to check. So I'll just check once. And if the Tides are not shared with the institute, I'll share it immediately with them and they will upload it. Okay. So I have shared all the PPTs, whatever I had with the institute yesterday, actually. PPTs of the Himalayan mountains and the hills, coastal plains, islands. Okay. And the peninsular part, whatever we have discussed yesterday, even that I shared. So today's part I will share after this class. And I'll make sure that you get all these as soon as possible. So because we are rapidly moving towards the end of the course, right? So I just want you to revise and get back to me if you have any doubts. Okay? Fine then. So let me just stop it here for today. Okay? And tomorrow we are going to start the new chapter, which is the drainage system. So thank you so much for joining me, guys. And in the evening, we are going to have environment class. And in the next 2 or 3 days, I'm going to finish off the environment syllabus also. Okay. So take care and let us meet in the evening.